You just got your new Sony FX30 and you realize you never did learn about the handle. In this video, I'm going to show you how to use the XLR module on the Sony FX30. Let's start by going into detail about the left side of the module, which contains all the main inputs and settings. I'll be going through these one at a time in detail. First, let's talk about the input one control section. This is the first section on the left of the audio module. Here you'll see the ATT switch control signal augmentation, which is used to reduce the input level received from the microphone. Start with this switch at 0 dB to introduce the least amount of noise from the camera's built-in audio preamps. You can change this later to 10 dB or 20 dB depending on your microphone levels. Next, we have the single switch level, which tells the camera the type of signal being sent into the XLR input. It can be line level, microphone level, or microphone plus 48 volts for microphones that requires phantom power. Just check your microphone to see if it requires phantom power and just adjust it accordingly. Moving on, we have the input level section. You have two options here: the input level selector switch and the input level dial. Now let's move on to the input 2 section, which is similar to the input 1. In the addition to the input level switch, audio or manual, we have the link feature. Setting the switch to link disables the level control from input 2 and shares the same level as control as input 1. This is useful when using one microphone in the XLR1 and recording on 2 channels at the same level. On the right side of the module, we have the low cut filter option. The low cut filter removes the lowest bass frequency from the signal during recording. It can be helpful removing low hums, rumbling from wind noise, or unwanted low frequencies. However, you can always address this issue in post-production, so it's optional to use the low cut filter during the recording. Lastly, we have the input 3 control. Input 3 is a 3.5mm jack, so we have fewer controls for the signal level. Here, we only have an audio manual switch and the level dial. Below the audio module, on the left side of the handle, there is a switch to enable or disable the audio. If you switch off, you can use the 3.5 mic input on the camera and its audio level controls as you would without the handle. But to use the audio module, ensure this switch is turned on. I have went so many times where I realized I never turned the switch on and thinking like, why is my stuff working? I either think my microphone just quit working on me, even though I just used it the last week or so. I always end up forgetting to just turn on the handle. So don't be me always forgetting to think my whole setup is ruined because the handle is turned off. Don't be me. Now let's take a look at the input select switch located on the back of the module. This switch is crucial because it determines which input the camera records to its 2 channels. Setting the switch to N3 will send audio from input 3, the 3.5mm jack, to the channel 1 and 2. When using this setting, input 1 and 2 won't be recorded at all. Send the switch to N1, N2, puts input 1 into channel 1 and input 2 into channel 2. Records the signal from input 1 to both channel 1 and channel 2. Using one XLR microphone connected to the input 1 of the camera, set the input selection switch to N1. Using the XLR microphone connected to input 1 on the camera, set the input selection switch to N1, the input 1 alternator to your microphone's requirement. First, let's focus on connecting a single XLR microphone to input 1 of your camera. Locate the input select switch on the back of the module and set it to N1. Adjust the input 1 alternator according to your microphone requirements. Set the input signal to match your microphone type. For example, I'll be setting mine to mic plus 48V for my Sheriff microphone right here. Now set the level control switch to either manual or audio depending on your shooting style. Finally, connect the microphone to input 1. Now it's linking input 1 and input 2. If you want to use the same microphone for both channels 1 and 2, we can link them both. Now let's move to input 2 section to change the level control to link. Now the dial on input 1 will control both channels 1 and 2. While recording audio, aim to set the levels around -6 to -12 dB to allow some headroom for unexpected loud noises. Let's take a look at an example on the screen. As you can see, we're recording 2 identical channels on audio. However, this setup may not offer any significant advantage. Let's explore some alternative options. Auto second channel, the first option is the backup. This configuration ensures a backup audio track in case of an unexpected level change. Set input 2 to audio instead of linking it, while input 1 remains in manual mode, capturing your primary audio. Input 2 adjusts its levels based on the ambient noise. This setup is useful for events where sudden loud noises occur. Ensure one can handle it better than the other. Like, of course, like I shoot podcasts, so when I'm shooting the podcast or these type of videos, while I'm talking, that second level would base it out if I'm going too high or too low. I would definitely mess around with this feature so you can get it right. So you won't have to worry about it being too high, too low. It just configurates it on its own. Another useful configuration is setting the second channel to manual with a lower level than the first channel. This method provides a safety net if the audio peaks. Speaking loudly into the microphone, you'll likely see input 1 peaking while input 2 remains within range. Remember, when editing, enable only one channel at a time. Let's explore using 2 XLR microphones simultaneously. For this setup, set the input selection switch to N1 to N2. Set the input 1 signal to mic plus 48V based on your microphone requirements. Of course, use manual for the level control and connect your microphone to the input 1. Input 2 will be recorded into channel 2, allowing you to capture audio from a second microphone. You can adjust each input settings individually or link them and using the same microphone for both channels. Input 2 will record the channel 2, allowing you to capture audio from your second microphone. Just for this video, for example, I'm using 2 microphones that is phantom power, so it's actually just sitting right here. So I'm using 2, so I got both of them plugged in. This is need phantom power as well. This is not, I don't know the exact name, I can't think of it off my head, but I will put it on the screen like the name of it. Both of these microphones need 2 phantom powers, and when you get in post, you should be able to go in between the other. So if I take my main one out, which is input 1, and talking to input 2, my second microphone, you should see in the channels in Premiere Pro, you should see it should be 2 separate channels for the audio. For the 3.5mm jack, I'm gonna actually use my DJI wireless for this setup. Going to the rear of the module, let's set it to N3 so it can work with the 3.5mm jack. Set the input 3 level control to either manual or auto, depending on your needs, of course, because with mine's here, I can actually control it with just it. But if you want more, just a little bit more freedom, you can actually set it up on the dial for your camera as well. So I actually have 2 transmitters. Right now I'm using 1. And so this one is going to be recording into channel 1 and 2 because I'm using it in like the mono stage. But since I have 2, you will be able to split the channels, of course. So when I purchased my FX30, I wish I would have known this before I shot one of my videos, because one of my videos had a terrible audio. I knew something had to be done. I knew I just wasn't getting research enough about the handle. So when I did, I was like, yeah, this puts me at ease knowing that my audio is gonna sound way more clear in my videos. So if you enjoyed this video and you got something out of it, please like and subscribe. And I can't wait to see you in the next one. See you when I see you.